Well, welcome, everyone, to Sensei Speaks Life Without the Filter, where we wake up the wisdom, confront the truth, and learn the lessons that help us grow into our best selves. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Welcome to Season 1, Episode 5, where we will discuss how family dynamics shape our youth. My name is Paula Bell, and I am your host for the evening. But before we jump in and I bring our guest panelist on, I do have a couple of disclaimers. Number one, I am not a therapist and I will not offer any medical advice. I am not a trained, qualified, or professional or able to diagnose or treat any form of mental illness or disorder. And some topics may be triggering, so make sure you take space if you need to. Please interact via the chat or comments. If you have any questions, post them in the chat or in the comments, as we may be able to answer them live as we are having the conversation. Also, make sure to subscribe to the Life Coach Sensei on the YouTube channel. And you can also find the show, Sensei Speaks, Life Without the Filter, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So let's go ahead and jump right in. This evening, I am joined by special guests, Weslyn Caldwell and Darnell Savoy Loatman, where we're going to be having a conversation around how family dynamics shape our youth. So welcome, Weslyn and Darnell. Weslyn, why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself?
Good evening. I am the executive director of the Wilkie House. Have been there for over a year. We are a community organization, one of the oldest in the state of Iowa. And we pride ourselves on doing the work in four pillars of academic, recreation, social skill building, and health through an after school program and an all day summer enrichment camp.
Awesome. Darnell, a little bit about yourself. If you're still there, Darnell. Are you there, Darnell? Darnell, can you hear us? Because we are not hearing you. What is happening? Clearly, he is not hearing us. I'm going to remove him and bring him back. Let's see what happens. Darnell, can you hear us? No? Can't hear us?
Can you wave? Can you wave? No.
What is happening? All right, y'all. Okay, hold on. Oh, he can't hear. So what I'm going to do is I am going to remove him right quick and he can come back in. Because we can hear him just well. So let's remove and we'll have him come back in. All right. So while we wait for Darnell to come back, I want to show some statistics to kick us off. And I want to get your thoughts on some of these statistics that's about to be shown to the screen. And this is about how family dynamics impact child success, right? So there are a couple of ways that this can happen. It can happen through communication and emotional stability. So it appears that children from families with healthy communication are 40% more likely to develop strong emotional intelligence, according to the American Psychological Association. Also, it appears that kids with actively engaged parents are 2 times more likely to earn higher grades and test scores, and youth with involved fathers are 75% less likely to repeat a grade and 80% less likely to experience behavioral problems. Children raised in high conflict or unstable households are 3 times more likely to experience anxiety, depression, and behavioral changes. We also have, from an economic and social mobility perspective, positive family support increases the likelihood of upward economic mobility by 31%, even in low income households. We cannot not look at generational impact as well. Kids who grow up in homes with strong emotional support are 50% more likely to succeed in adulthood. And from a cultural context, in Black families, strong kinship and community support structures improve youth resilience by up to 60%, even in high stress environments. So when you look at some of this data and you work with the youth quite often, Weslyn, is any of this shocking to you? Does it resonate with you? What stands out for you?
I guess the youth with involved fathers, 75% less likely to repeat a grade. I mean, they're not repeating grades anymore. So I guess we could translate that into a reading statistic, probably, right? And equate that to, um, what that child's reading level is. Because kids, there are some kids that should be left behind, but they're not anymore. I'm not surprised by any of them. I think most of them are probably on target. I think it is really about perspective, though, right? Because when you talk about engagement and emotional intelligence and parents being active and in the home and support, and I look at my own experience, right? So, my parents in my middle school years had a commuter marriage. So, my mom lived 2.5 hours away and came home on the weekends. My dad was a pastor of a church and worked at the post office in the evening. So, while there was a lot of things that my parents, from a school perspective, missed that I participated in, but I still had all of the other things. I still knew I was supported. I still knew that all of the other things could happen. So it's not a matter of having one without the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important too.
Mm-hmm. And Darnell, I see that you've joined us back. Are you able to hear us now?
I mean, y'all couldn't hear me.
Yes, so I can hear you
Right.
now, so we're good. We're good. Okay, so I did put the statistics up. We did do a little
Listen.
quick overview, but a couple of things that we were talking about is a generational impact, community support, cultural context, stability and behaviors. So, for example, children raised in high conflict or unstable households are 3 times more likely to experience anxiety, depression, and behavioral challenges. And based on the information that I have on the screen, Weslyn and I were just talking real quickly on what resonates or if there's anything that's surprising that we should highlight as well. So if you have a chance to see it and you can, if you want to share anything, now would be the time. If not, we can go ahead and jump right into some questions that I have for y'all.
No, yeah, we can jump into the questions.
All right, well, let's go ahead and jump right into those questions. And so first question is, how do you all feel about the family structure, your own family structure? So Wesley, you talked about it a little bit, how your own family structure impacted the adult you became, in some a little bit of a context, but how do you feel your family structure, how you grew up, impacted who you are today?
Oh, it's probably everything. My biological mother died when I was 8, so I was raised by my grandmother for a little bit. Came back with my dad, and the best stepmom I could have. Um, and then in that ended up raising one of my sister's daughter, my niece. So, I mean, it impacts because I don't know that it's a matter of the who, more so as the what happened, and as long as it happened, right? I don't know it mattered that who did it, as long as all the things that needed to happen still happened. And that is, I guess, one of the things that probably really worked in our family is that we didn't really get caught up on the who's going to do it part of it. Sometimes you get caught up on, well, you're the mom, you have to. Well, you're the dad, you have to, right? And I find myself even with my own kid, right? Be like, well, you're the dad, you have to. But then you be like, well, okay, gotta let that go. So yeah, I think that was probably the biggest impact, is that we never got caught up on the who should do it, but that it has to happen part. And I think sometimes we get caught up and stuck in the fact of who's not doing it, that then nobody does it.
Mm, makes sense. How about you, Darnell? How did your own family structure impact the adult you have become?
I mean, I'm a firm believer you're a product of your environment. I don't think it is what it is. the environment you grow up in, somehow or some way, that's going to be some of you. So I just think you're a product of your environment. Be it good, be it bad, be it whatever it is, you're going to be a product of that environment that you're raised in.
So how do you feel communication patterns in the home, being that byproduct of the environment, shape how kids communicate later in life?
I mean, either they do or they don't. Right. I mean, I think they're, unfortunately, right, if they're raised in a home where communication isn't the best, right, there's typically some life-changing, life-altering, traumatic event that happens for them to realize that, oh, I should do something different than what I'm accustomed to and what I know, right? So unfortunately for us, that means, they probably got in some trouble, went to prison, had to sit down for a minute for them to realize, oh, something's got to be different, right? And that's the unfortunate part, is that nobody ever showed them different before, which goes back to the village, because we're just not villaging anymore, right? We're all in our silos, right? And just letting everybody do their own thing, even if we don't think it is the right thing to do. So I think, unfortunately, the communication piece, like Darnell said, is a product. I mean, it comes from their environment, and the resilience piece and stuff doesn't come till later. And sometimes it's just too late, I think. But I mean, we're glad that it eventually happens, but what all else happens in between that is the sad part.
Communication is everything for me. Coming from where I'm from, communication is everything. How you, what a child see in the home communication wise, is how they're going to communicate. And we got to remember, we're not always talking about spoken words. We're talking about nonverbal communication as well. So that's how that child is going to communicate. It's hard, and a lot of people don't understand it. I remember I was in a relationship. I wouldn't say I love you, but I never heard that. I never heard a man tell my mom that. So that wasn't going to happen. It was showed in different manners in my eyes, but in her eyes, it wasn't. So communication is everything. Far as what we go, even with me as a father, I could have done better as well. And that goes to say that I'm trying to teach something that was taught wrong to me. You know what I mean? And at that point, you're teaching it wrong, which gives you the cycle that we're stuck in until this day. So for me, communication is everything. I've learned years and years later as a parent to listen more and talk less, because you can learn from your kids, actually. So, I mean, I think it's just your perception of it. But for me, it starts with communication, because when they step out of your home, they got to be able to communicate.
As you bring that up, it sparks another question that I have. In y'all experiences, not only in your personal experiences growing up, but in the work that you do, because both of you all work with youth every single day. What do kids pick up on that parents think they hide well?
Everything.
I was going to say everything.
Everything. Whatever you think
let me tell
they
you,
don't know, they know.
I used to think, for the longest, I used to think that like kids' memory didn't start till they were like 4 or 5, right? And a couple years ago, I think we were at Christmas, and my kid recounted a very traumatic event that happened when he was like 3. And I'm like, how do you remember? How do you know that? And he's like, I was there. And I'm like, oh, okay,
Kids,
sorry. Right.
Kids.
The crazy part about it is right, no family is perfect. And I think Darnell can agree that we're not expecting perfection, right? When we deal with these families and these kids, the challenge is when you bring it to the parents for it to be better, the denial, then the I don't know where that came from. The we don't do that at home, right? That is the part that probably takes me to the edge because they get it from somewhere. Uh,
Right.
and so, I've asked the mom, well, where would that have happened at? Right. And now we just stuck staring at each other because.
Not me. See, I'm the opposite of that. Like when I go to a parent and it's that situation, I understand that situation because my mom was that parent.
Mm,
So my perception of it is a lot different,
okay.
right? And as a kid, we know, going to your question, we know you kid knows everything. My mother had me, I think, at 14. She was a baby raising a baby. Some point later, in the 80s, 90s, you got high. I knew when my mom was high because she was happy. I knew when she was miserable because she wasn't high. So even if I'm stepping into certain places, I never look at that parent as if they supposed to know or whatever the case may be. I always go back to what I know. My mother is my best friend, but we had them struggles. So I try to approach it a whole different way, as in I'm not a perfect parent. You know what I mean? My parents wasn't perfect. So,
Mm,
where can we work at together to help?
mm-hmm.
I struggle with parents, not necessarily when they say it's not happening here, because I understand why they're saying that. It's, nobody want to be judged. I feel like they less of a parent. So I get that part because I watched my mother be judged. And I watched her cry when she felt less of a parent. And so you're talking about a kid at a young age when she had me at that early age. I watched that even from family members. So I can't go to a home and talk to a parent without knowing what I know. I just try to handle it different and say, how can I help you? How can I assist you? How can I work with you to work with them? Because I was those kids and my parents was them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just try to go from a different dynamic of it. And I also understand everybody's not in that same situation. But for me, I was been put in a few situations. So I try to build from that outlook. I'm not perfect. I'm imperfect. You know what I mean? So I'm not walking up to you as some perfect person. Nah, I'm flawed. But how do we work to make sure the kids, be it yours, be it mine, be it whose ever, how do we get it to where they understand even if they flawed, they still can grow?
And I think
It's
that's a
like
matter
that.
of creating the safe space, right? For those parents to know that, those kids to know that, right? Because I think a lot of parents don't, the safe spaces are very blurred now, right? And so for them to know what they can say and what they can't say, what's allowed versus what's not allowed, what's culturally accepted, what's culture, what I mean, I think there, especially our families have been in some spaces that they thought were safe, and it turned out that it wasn't safe. So now they're questioning every
Right.
space and everybody that is around them that even has good intentions, that really does want to help,
Right.
and so that's probably a bulk of the work, is that reassuring of the safe space, right? That yes, while we're operating within systems and while we do have jobs to do, there's a way that we can do that and make sure that you're successful and that your family is successful and that your child is successful without disrupting, and doing it a totally opposite way of the way that you think it has to happen.
Our safe spaces was listen, I don't know why she wanted me on the show, but
We're here, Darnell.
our safe spaces was blown away a long time ago. Because your safe spaces for our community used to be your church. Um, your church start judging you. You know what I mean? They start judging you. They start judging the family, whether you like it or not. Those were supposedly be safe places, and that stuff got kicked out the door a long time ago. It is what it is. You know what I mean? Those to me was your first line of safe places where you should go. And judgment happened, and then you could turn the most beautiful people away. We can create more safe spaces, but for me, talking to parents, your safe space is what's in your head and you doing the right thing. Speak your mind. Period. You only got one life. Put it out, put it on the table and live it. Because your kid is watching. I'm a flawed father, but my kids know where I'm at now in life. They know they can change if it's something wrong. They can still change it. They can still make it happen. So I got over safe spaces a long time ago. A safe space is me and God. That's the safe space for me. And I'll go from there and really don't care. Like all that other stuff, it doesn't even matter. Like once you know your purpose, nothing else matters to me. That's just coming from me. I don't even look at safe
And I
spaces.
think that's a process. That's a journey. Darnell's at the end. That's a journey, right? Because like I don't know that my safe space now is the church, right? But I don't know that that's what it was 15 years ago or 23 years ago, 24 years ago, right? But that's where it is now. That's where I'm at in my journey. And so I think as we grow and we mature, as our families grow, as people come and people go, our safe spaces change. As our dynamics change. And so we have to be okay with that. And we have to learn how to maneuver that. What's once safe might not always be safe.
So is it really to the point of you're meeting people where they are?
You always got to meet them where they are. That's rule one, meet them where they are. But when I say safe spaces, I'm going from, I know what church used to be like and what you can go to and speak. And I'm not just saying church to say church, not like that. But it's just in general for me, because now when I'm here now and I'm speaking, I don't see enough. I always said schools and churches is going to have to play a major role when it comes to us helping these kids. Those two is going to have to play a major role. And I don't see enough of it at the tables.
So I want to go a little bit deeper on that, just to get your thoughts for those who are listening. Why do you pick those two definitively? School and church have to play a role to help with these young people and their success. Why you pick those two institutions?
When I say school and church, because kids go to school.
Okay.
I don't think teachers get paid enough to be mom, dad, counselors, therapists. I don't think they get paid enough for that. They get paid to teach. So when I say schools have to play a role, I think schools got to start being creative. Be creative. What can we bring in here that's really going to help the youth? You know what I mean? Whether it's a women group, whether it's meaningful things. You know what I mean? Just not throw it all on a teacher. That's hectic. So I think when I say it, because the kids are in school, and school was always considered a safe place. You know what I mean? Now, I've been in the schools. I know what it's like. Nobody can tell me that it's a safe place.
My favorite tagline is the school is a system, and systems are meant for processes, not outcomes, right? So they have a list of tasks, a list of things to do things, an ordered number, a list that they have to go through, right? They're not worried about where you are at the end. They want you to finish, but they don't care how you finish. And so I think the school system from what our parents grew up in is obviously way different now. And I don't know that part of the system has been able to adjust with what our kids are going through today, right? And so I always said my son is 23, and going to school for him was way more challenging than it was for me in the 90s. And they just have to deal with so much more. And it is not those teachers' jobs to have to deal with all of the other things that come with those kids walking in their classroom. And so I think sometimes where it gets crazy is when you ask parents about school stuff, they say, well, that's what they go to school for. And when you ask school about home stuff, they say, well, that's what they have parents for. And both of them are very true, right? But I think there is a question of how and to what level and degree do we hold each other accountable, each group accountable, without the negative pieces of it, right? How can the school hold parents accountable without our children ending up in the system and being taken away from parents unnecessarily? and then starting that line of, that trend. How can parents hold the school accountable by learning to advocate for themselves and not being viewed as combative, and hard to work with, right? So there's some accountability that needs to happen on everybody's part. And I don't know, from what I've seen, that I don't know that either part is willing to own their piece of it and figure it out.
Hmm.
Right. I think we do have some parents that do, and those parents are openly engaged in the process every day. And we see success out of those kids, right? But for the ones who are not, or for the parents who don't know how, because they didn't grow up with it, they didn't see that engagement, they didn't see that advocacy, right? What do when they show up at the school cussing and fussing because little JJ got in trouble and they don't understand it, right? But the school's not going to take the time to explain it when all they got to do is call security until you come back in 5 days, right? And so there's no, and that's the end of it. There's no accountability, there's no responsibility to each other. And that's, for me, when you talk about relationships, dynamics, how we function, if I don't have a responsibility to you, Paula, as a human being, as a colleague, then if I don't owe you nothing, then I don't care if you do well tomorrow. And that's kind of where I think our parents and our schools are, because neither one of them understand what they owe each other, which is ultimately the work to make sure that our babies are successful.
Mm-hmm. So I want to go a different route because both of you all deal with youth at different stages. So Darnell, I'm going to start with you first. You are dealing with youth a lot of times who are in crisis. They got a lot going on. And you have had to be on the scene during those crises and interact with both the family structure and the youth structure. And I've heard you sometimes say, even though the way you said it made me laugh, but it's really not funny. I've heard you say sometimes that when you get to potentially some situations, you wonder if it's really the family that's in crisis and not the kid. It's sort of like based on the dynamic. On those situations that you've come into, if you could talk to parents and give them some advice, give them some knowledge, some lessons that you've learned, what would some of those things be that you have seen that could potentially be avoided if we did X, Y, and Z? And you could
Be
just give an
open.
example.
I mean,
Okay.
to me, you be open. You be honest with your child. Be open, be honest with your child, and also allow your child to be open and honest with you. Because you'll be surprised what your kid to tell you if they know there's no consequences to it.
Mm,
You know what I mean? So if your kid don't even trust you to tell you the truth, who could they really trust? I mean, they can go trust somebody in the street, but we know that what might happen that way.
mm-hmm.
So for me, it's just to sit your kid down. Something I wish would have been done for me, and I would have did with some of my kids is sit down and you take the floor. You tell me what's going on, and shut up and listen to them because you can learn a lot. Sometimes we pull up and I can see that it's not the kid. The kid is in crisis, but because the parents are in crisis, you know what I mean. So the kid need to get away.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean. But if you take the parents being out of crisis or whatever's going on in the home, then the kid would never. That situation is not there no more for the child. In some cases, we see kids who have to become the adult, and that's hard on the kid. Your parents working 2 jobs, you got brothers and sisters, or they doing this, they doing that. You become a parent at 12. You're doing stuff your mom and your father should be doing. That's hard. Imagine how hard it is for me or for you with kids or whoever. Now put that on the 12-year-old. You know what I mean? So it's different dynamics to it. Um, it's just different dynamics to it. You know, sometimes we go there, we can see the kid cussing, and it's like I can imagine what the kid like in school because I see what they doing to the parents right then and there. You know what I mean? So I know what's coming with the school part of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh man, it's no discipline there. Um, it just need to be help. And I think some parents who in situations where they can't do it, my grandparents helped raise me like for a long time. Sometimes you got to tuck your pride in and let the next person try. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you make it hard on yourself and the kid. And I've seen that situation in the communities as well. You know what I mean? Where it's like the pride gets you where you don't want to let go of the kid because it's gonna make me look like a bad parent. But you holding on to that kid is killing that kid inside. So it's different dynamics. I mean, it's way different. I've seen so much, especially with youth, especially with the girls. You know what I mean? It's like it's just a lot. You know what I mean? And you don't want to blame it on parents because I've seen parents working two jobs. They can't know what's going on at home. They got to pay the bills. You know what I mean? I seen kids who was staying the night at school because he was kicked out by parents. I mean, I seen a whole lot. Um, you just don't know. It's not just one certain thing. But for me, it's to be open and honest with your kid. It's okay to share your struggles with your child and let them know what's going on with you. I do. I don't sugarcoat nothing from my kids at all. Be it bad or good, I let them know what's going on with me. You know, my mom used to tell me, 'cause she used to get high. She used to always say when I was younger, a bad example make a good warning. And when you're young, you really don't hit you hard. But as I got older, oh, that's what it meant. You know what I mean? So I always tell my kids, yo, be better than me. But it's hard right now because I've seen the worst of the worst. I've seen it all when it comes to the youth. Um, and then they carry it to school, right? They carry it to school, and a lot of times they release it at the school because they can't release it at home. You know what I mean? And then if you go to school, I remember I had a counselor say, "Well, counselor crying because she really want to help the person, but I'm trying to help them, but I don't look like them. You know what I mean? I don't understand that situation, so that comes another barrier. So it's just on and on. But at the end of the day, we when you're working with youth, you just keep pushing and trying to put yourself around the right people, all types of people, all walks of life, because you're going to run into the kids and you want to make sure you have the resources there for them. But for me, it's tiring, but it's rewarding, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's both at the same time. Um, it's just you wish the world can be better, but we understand the world that we're in, and you just try your best to help. And I have to teach my team. Everybody's not going to take to us. Everybody not we don't bury some, we don't visit some in jail. Like everybody's not going to take to us. You know what I mean? It doesn't happen that way. And those are the ones you wish you can get back. You know what I mean? And sometimes you just can't get it back.
So you said something there, and I'm going to throw this over to you, Wesley, because Darnell, you said something. So you said, okay, so let's imagine they have a lot of turmoil. They're not being heard at home. So they keep that inside. They go to school and they turn up at school, and then they crash out at the after school program. And that's when you get them, because now they've been at home, they've been at school, and now they're after school program.
It happens. It happens.
So, and I've been there a couple of times where we've heard a couple, do some severe crash outs. Mm-hmm. But for you and the youth that you work with who may not be in crisis, right? Darnell has some that's not as well, but a bulk of a lot of his youth are in crisis, right? What is it that you would want to say to the parents and to the families to say, this could maybe be one way we can get back to that village, that we can get back to having the respect, the discipline, the consistency, all those sort of things?
One of the things that we've been really working on over the last year is asking what happened versus what did you do? Because those what did you do carries a lot. That's a heavy question, right? Mm-hmm. And when you're talking to a kid who doesn't think that they've done anything wrong, or doesn't know that what they did was wrong, maybe, or just can't process it, or whatever, it may be. Um, that just by asking that question, right, we've just sent them 10 steps more worse than trying to help them. So I do believe that there is power in words, right? And so we choose our words wisely. And asking, we've seen great success in asking what happened versus what did you do? Um, Now, when it comes to parents asking what happened, the replies have been entertaining, right? In that, because that forces you, right? That forces you to take some accountability and when you tell the story, right? And you just can't. And then I always make people's I and me statements, right? I want you to be able to tell this story without anybody else's name. And so there's that accountability piece. So if something else happened, you have to be able to tell me why it affected you. I feel this way because then you can tell me what happened, right? And so I believe that our biggest thing is the power in words and how we address it, right? And that has been a huge game changer for us and how we address behaviors, attitudes, and just overall adjustments and transitions. Because the Wookie House has definitely been through some transitions over the last year. And so working through that, and I think, again, we discount what kids see, and they see everything and they know everything. And so also being mindful of how it affects their day to day. I don't take for granted that 2.5, 3 hours that they're with us in the afternoon is a crucial part of their day. While it might be the shortest part of their day, it's crucial. And some of them look forward to it. Some of them know it's just one step closer to their day being over, right? And so either one of those attitudes can shift how their afternoon goes. And so being mindful of that and the words that we use. And that's hard in a cultural setting, right? Because culturally, we walk up, right, with all the attitude to try to fix the situation, right? And culturally, we've just made it 10 times worse. And so we have to figure out and understand the power of our words is really the work that we've been doing lately. And we've seen great success with it. So I tell people all the time, what happened versus what did you do is a game changer.
Okay. So you both have brought up how your lived experiences, your upbringings, things that you've experienced, whether positive or maybe not as positive, has impacted you. Darnell, you've gone through lived experiences and things where you've gone through your own process of getting to where you are today with the passion that you have to help the youth so they don't repeat some of the mistakes of others before them. They're not in jail. They have a lot more in life than doing that. And of course, Weslyn, you do it as well. I work with both of you all, and both of you all engage with the youth very differently. Weslyn, you're the very like nurturing, soft, inquisitive, ask questions detective. Darnell's going to be in your face. And the reason being, and I understand why both of you take different approaches, is because you're in different situations in that youth's life, right? Darnell is literally in a lot of cases life or death. It's at that point right then. I don't have time to necessarily be nice and season my words. You got to understand what's going on, or you may not be here tomorrow, right? So you both take it from different ways. But what advice would you give to adults to begin their own doggone healing so their children don't inherit their doggone wounds? Because a lot of us don't deal with us. You both have mentioned it, accountability, right? A lot of us don't deal with us. I've had to deal with myself, even when I was parenting or whatnot. And with you all dealing with the youth, you see it. You see the byproduct of that. So how can we as adults begin this healing process so that our children don't inherit the wounds that we have?
Mm-hmm.
You have to acknowledge that something's broke.
Acknowledgement.
I think that's the first step. I mean, I think in all of my various journeys, right, that has been, I had to acknowledge that there was something broke, torn, something I didn't like, something that I wanted to fix. And I had to let my pride go so that way the work could be done. But the first step, and probably the hardest step for most, is the acknowledgement of it for me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, it's that talk conversation you're gonna have with yourself by yourself, with nobody around. And when you're ready to change, and that conversation, you won't have a lot of answers to it. You'll be talking to yourself, but it won't be a lot of answers. You got to face that truth. You know what I mean? I think again, I always go back to being honest with yourself, but also being honest with your kids. You know, my mother had to sit me down and be honest with me and tell me things she never told me for me to truly understand. And by her doing that, it allowed me to do some healing because you know you'll start learning where your pain is real fast. So again, if you got to look in that mirror and you got to more than acknowledge it. I don't like to say like broke a fix. You know, I mean, I just like to say I could just use healing. You know what I mean? But it's hard to look in that mirror. It was hard for me to look in there and say, "Damn, you could have been a better father. You could have been a better son. You sold drugs to your own people. You sold drugs. Like you have to look in the mirror and really acknowledge this shit. You you was the danger. Like you would hurt people, and if you can't look and understand, because it's gonna be flack with that. The most hardest thing to do is to be honest with yourself, knowing what's coming behind it. Quite frankly, even from your own people, because you being honest, they don't give a shit about. They don't see the honesty in you of I got to be honest with myself to help others. You know what I mean? They gonna judge you, and if you ain't built for that, what's coming behind it, you're gonna be in trouble. Cause trust me, I wear it on my sleeve. I don't care. I did a lot wrong. I'm very flawed. I know I'm gonna be judged. I don't pay attention to the ones who judge me. Pay attention to those ones that's looking at me. That I know they're going through the same thing. And if I can say it, they can say it. If I can change, they can change. But when you're looking in that mirror and you're being honest with yourself, if you truly want to help, you gotta be able to get ready to take what's coming. Because everybody is not gonna be nice. Like you're gonna attack you. If you ain't built for it, everybody's not built for it. You know what I mean? Everybody's not built for it at all. And I mean, I hate to say it, but it's the way it is. So for me, it was really being honest with myself, looking my son in the eye. Like I could have been a better father. You shouldn't have been in the situations you in. I know those situations very well. You know what I mean? So um, looking at your daughter in the eye, those are the things you have to really come to grip with. You know what I mean? Because that's your legacy. Your kids is really your legacy. You got to come to grip with that. In the midst of coming grip with that, people that you think love you will talk about you. You know what I mean? You never know the power of somebody until they think they got something over your head. And then you'll learn a lot about the people around you, including your family. So for me, it's simple. Once I looked in that mirror and I came to grips with the things I've done and where I could have changed, been better, I can't go back and fix that. So it's nothing you can say to me to make me feel bad. I only can now teach those ones what you really gonna go through. What it really feel like to feel less of a man. What it feel like if you don't step up and do the right thing for your kids. What it feel like if you can be a better son. Like those are the things I can teach you. You know what I mean? I had a guy, he wanted me to help his kid. You a millionaire. I'm broke. I could talk to that broke kid from the hood. You know what I mean? So it's different. I think it's different approaches. But look in that mirror and ask yourself the questions you don't want nobody to know about yourself. And answer those questions. And then you're going to help yourself.
And what are some ways do you feel? Oh, go ahead, Wesley. You were about to say something.
I think the other thing too is to ask for help. Ask for what you don't know. Right? Don't be scared to ask. And ask until you get what you need. I think that's the hard part, right? We ask, somebody might give a resource that might not be the best resource for you, or it might not have worked out. And then, that kind of sends us back to ground zero. And we don't know what else to do. But the village, there are people in the village that are really, really, really ready to village, right? And so I would always encourage people to ask for what they need, ask for what they want, and watch it work. Watch it work.
Mm-hmm. So we talked a lot about, communication is key, being open and honest, accountability, acknowledgement, looking yourself in the mirror, having the tough conversations, being honest with yourself. If you could define in your own words, leveraging some of that and maybe some more other adjectives or phrases based on the work that you all have done with the youth, what does a healthy family support system look like? I get communication, I get all of that. But is there anything else in addition to that for those, especially we have young people, as you mentioned, Darnell, you got babies raising babies. You have people who are our kids who are helping with adult tasks to take care of the family so that there's food on the table, roof over everybody's head, right? So what does a healthy family support system look like to you all? Like, and I would think of what are just some of the main components that people should have in order to have that healthy family support system.
I don't think you're gonna always have it. Ain't gonna be 100% healthy family support.
Understandable.
System. And I don't talk to kids no more as far as preaching about healthy support systems. 50%, I'm 50-50 now. 50% of me is teaching them how to live in an unhealthy situation. Don't go kill yourself. Don't do none of that. Live. So how can I teach you if I got to get you job readiness program? So I'm teaching you, save your money. You can buy yourself some food, save money here. When you hit a certain age, you can move. We got kids that we taught that. And when the minute they was able to move out, their grades went to A's and B's. Things change. So I think we always focused on healthy living, but we also got to teach them how to, some ain't gonna leave the home. For me, I'm not leaving the home with my mom. And I don't care what me and my mother going through. It's the love of my life. We gonna hammer this out together as a kid. You know what I mean? And so you're not gonna make me leave what may be unhealthy. You're gonna have to show me how to make it work in this unhealthy. You know what I mean? Till I can maneuver. So I don't live in a fantasy. I don't think it's gonna be 100% healthy. So I'm okay with helping you where it's healthy at, but I also ask the kids, where do you need help the most? Because that's where they're going home to. So how can I help you there now? Let me give you resources to make a call if you're hungry. Resources if you're feeling mentally, whatever. Let me give you those resources. Therapy. Let me give you every resources you can possibly have, so you don't go home and when those things happen, you want to do other things, right? I want you to, for me, I just want to see them live now. Because some of our kids walking around dying inside. You know what I mean? they're alive, but they're not living. You know what I mean? So I try to maneuver both sides of that. So, they can understand you're going to hit a rough patch. Even us as adults, we hit rough patches. It's just part of life. But trying to tell a kid that is hard. So how do we find trusted people? Because some of the kids I work with, trusted people is not family members. You know what I mean? So who's your trusted person? When this happened, can you contact them? You know what I mean? What do we have in place for you if this happened? I'm okay when we talk about healthy, but we have to start teaching them, what to do when it's not healthy.
I think for me, when we talk about healthy, for me, first and foremost, I'm gonna have to say a relationship with God, right? I mean, I'd be crazy if I didn't put that in the mix. And just knowing how that plays a role into the possibilities and what could be. would be first and foremost. But in that, I think that there's the other things that play into being healthy, such as compassion, tolerance. Um, there's grace, right? Darnell didn't say the word survival, but that's what it is. And right, all of those are skill sets, right? That whether taught, inherited, learned or whatever, are necessary for the day to day, right? And I think when we talk about healthy dynamics, it's really a matter of knowing how to treat people. And when you learn how to treat people by being kind to them, respecting their boundaries, being able to communicate with them, knowing what is allowed and what is not allowed, knowing what they like and what they don't like, and not intentionally doing something that they don't like. When learning when to walk away, when to stick around. I think all of that goes into being healthy. And then at the same token, recognizing what's safe and what isn't, right? Sometimes being healthy is walking away. Sometimes that's the healthy choice, even if it is family, right? I can't go in this city and somebody not call me auntie. I feel like I'm an auntie to like 2,500 people under the age of 30. And about 10 of those people call me often, right? And say, auntie, I got a question. There's no bloodline there. I've known them for 10 plus years. And if you had to ask them, they would put me in their family tree. And I don't discount that. And I think that is because of the healthy skill sets that I display, and that you also let people know that are available to them. You too can be compassionate. You too can, right, be kind to people, despite all the other things that have happened to you, despite all the trauma, despite all the things that people have done to you, right? You now have choices to make that can go either way. So I think there is no cut and dry one answer to what makes the healthy dynamic, right? Because the other piece too is what's healthy for me in my relationship might not be Darnell's version of healthy, right? He might like a little toxic, right? That's okay. That might work for him, right? So everybody's, I think there's no cookie cutter, right, version of what is healthy, right? Because some people will define healthy by how they're surviving. And so because they're surviving in a traumatic environment, they would tell you, I'm healthy, I'm making it. Us healed people would know different, right? But who am I to tell you that you're not healthy and you making it every day and you doing all the things that need to be done? I'm not carrying that. By no means am I carrying that. I'm here when you need me. Call me. Right. So it looks different for everybody.
Yeah, I agree.
I like how he just said, "Yeah, I agree," and that's it.
because she used the word, she said heal people, and me, I tell people I'm never gonna be healed. I just learn how to cope and help. So my healing comes with helping, right? My healing comes with helping people. Certain parts won't be healed. It is what it is. But me helping always soothes that part that's not healed. And I'm cool with that. I can live with that. That's where God got me at. So I'm cool with that.
Well, before we wrap for the night, is there anything that you all would like to tell our youth as far as advice, encouragement, motivation, whatever? If you could leave them with a couple of words tonight, what would that be?
Find something to do.
Find something to do.
There is something to do. There's something to do. There's something for everyone. I don't care if you like to color. There's a group for you. It's not. I think society has that if you don't play sports, ain't nothing for you to do, right? There's tons of groups and organizations out here that are putting in the work for our children to be engaged. And there is no excuse why our kids are not engaged in positive things. And for the parents, those words would be make your kids be engaged. There's only so much sitting at home that we were allowed to do growing up. And so now these kids have options. And while I'm not saying that options are a bad thing, right? I'll never say that. I think we're giving them too many options that lead to the stunt and not growth and development. And so for the babies, find you something to do. And for the parents, make them do something.
All right. All right.
I mean, it's simple for me. Nothing changes if nothing changes. Simple as that. That's all I got. Nothing changes if nothing changes.
It makes sense.
It makes sense, though. I mean, it makes sense. Nothing changes if nothing changes. So be the change that you want to be. Nothing changes if nothing changes. All right, I like that. I like that. Well, thank you, Weslyn Darnell. I appreciate it. My final thoughts are, our kids are not just watching us; they're becoming us in some ways. So the patterns we repeat become their starting point, and the conversations we avoid become their doggone confusion, and the healing we embrace becomes their inheritance. So if we want our youth to rise higher, we must be willing to look inward. Like Darnell said, we got to break them cycles. We got to repair what was fractured, and we got to build something healthier than what we received, whatever that might look like. Because the future doesn't start one day. It starts with the choices we make right now. So Weslyn and Darnell, you all do amazing stuff in the community. How can people get connected with you, donate to your organizations, help your organizations? Because let's keep it real. These organizations that are working with the youth, these nonprofits, funding getting cut, y'all. These nonprofits need us, and they do a lot of work in the community for our youth. So I am asking and requesting that as you listen to these episodes that I bring, especially with these organizations that are helping our communities be better, please consider donating to them. Please consider helping them. And even if it's not monetary, there are ways you can volunteer. Do something. So Weslyn, I'll start with you first, and then Darnell, you can let people know how to get in contact with you and donations and things of that nature.
Yep, the Wilkie House is always looking for readers for our program called Lit League. 20 minutes a week, any day that you choose between 3:30 and 5 p.m. on any school day. 20 minutes reading to a child every week. And we have seen great success for the readers and the program participants that have been paired up, because believe it or not, we have babies that go to school every day that can't read. And so that is one of our very intentional efforts in our academic work at the Wilkie House. So always looking for readers. There's group activity, group opportunities. If you have a group that wants to come and volunteer at the Wilkie House, we take groups as well. You can go to our website, wilkiehouse.org. And there are some opportunities listed there, as well as a link to donate. Please follow us on social media, on Facebook. Sign up for our newsletter. If you have any connection to the Wilkie House, whether you work there, if you were a past participant, an employee, please fill out the form on Facebook because we have some very intentional alumni efforts that will be happening over the next year. So,
Well, for us, you just go to Focus Inc. on Facebook, focusinc.org, and it'll give you everything you need to know. Our main focus right now is the crisis center and making sure we get that open. So right now it's looking like it's coming really, really close. But along with that, we'll be offering your Be His services, your mobile crisis service, your therapy, your counseling. So we'll be pretty. We got a great, awesome team basically, and so that'll be coming real soon. We're tying up, crossing T's and dotting I's, and bringing something new to the state, and plan on making sure it's successful. Other than that, if you need the help, reach out. Don't hesitate. If you get on there, we have our numbers on there, our mobile crisis number, whatever the case is, just reach out and we're going to make sure we get there and do our part to help the communities.
Amazing. Well, thank you both again. That's a wrap. I hope you all have enjoyed this episode. Remember, Weslyn and Darnell don't go anywhere after our little commercial break. Thank you all for engaging and listening. To keep the conversations going, please subscribe to our channels. You will see that now come up on the screen. In addition, please leave any comments, as we would love to hear from you. I'm quite sure if you leave any comments and you have any questions for Darnell or for Weslyn, I can definitely get you the answers. Remember to protect your peace, honor your purpose, and speak your truth always. And I will catch you all next month.